Free speech. It's a freedom that we Americans enjoy for the most part, unless you're this guy. His name is Mahmoud Khalil. He is a pro-Palestinian activist. I forget what university he's from. I don't know much about him. I am kind of winging this segment, to be honest with you. But I pulled up a couple of links. I heard this was a big problem. And it is indeed a big problem because from what I've heard, all this guy was doing was protesting the Palestinian genocide and was detained. He was basically disappeared overnight from his, I believe, 6 months pregnant six months pregnant wife or 8 months pregnant, something like that. Completely just disappeared. Nobody knew where he was. And then he showed up at some kind of detention center or something. I could be getting the facts wrong on that. Don't mark me on that, but that's what this is for. So we're going to learn together from the New York Post. Who is Mahmoud Khalil, the Palestinian Columbia activist arrested by ICE?
It's not a matter of simply violating university rules. This is a movement, an anti-war movement.
Agents from President Donald Trump's administration have arrested Palestinian graduate student Mahmoud Khalil.
And he, by the way, is here on a green card. I don't know if they'll mention that, but he's here on a green card, which means he is a legal permanent resident of the United States, and they are deporting him for exercising his free speech, which is a right granted to him and protected under the First Amendment.
Who played a prominent role in last year's pro-Palestinian protests at New York's Columbia University. That's according to a statement released by the Student Workers Labor Union, which added that Khalil was arrested by U.S. Department of Homeland Security agents at his university residence on Saturday. Khalil has been one of the lead negotiators with school administrators on behalf of the pro-Palestinian student protesters. His detention appears to be
this looks awful. Look at these brutal and violent protesters, man.
The first efforts by Trump to fulfill his promise to seek the deportation of some foreign students involved in the pro-Palestinian protest movement against Israel's war in Gaza that swept college campuses last spring. A spokesperson for Columbia said the school...
Are they trying to deport people with green cards? They'll try to deport anybody who doesn't agree with them. It starts with people with green cards, and then it moves to citizens.
...was barred by law from sharing information about individual students. Spokespeople for Trump, DHS, and the Department of State did not respond to questions. It was not immediately clear on what grounds DHS agents arrested Khalil. Khalil's arrest comes on the heels of the Trump administration canceling government contracts and grants awarded to Columbia University worth about $400 million. The government said the cuts in the student deportation efforts are because of anti-Semitic harassment at and near Columbia's Manhattan campus. In response, Columbia's interim president said the school was committed to combating anti-Semitism and was working with the federal government to address their legitimate...
That's crazy. The school's response, right? No defense whatsoever. What a limp dick move, man. Crazy. Well, we're working to combat anti-Semitism. You, okay? This is like this particular, like anti-Semitism is a problem, but this particular case has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. And anti-Semitism has been, the moniker of it has been taken over by people who just want Israel to raise over Palestine. They call anything that's not supporting their movement anti-Semitism, which, by the way, is kind of anti-Semitic, okay? Because not all Jewish people believe that Israel should... Not all Jews are Zionists. Not all Jews are Zionists, okay? And the thought that and belief that they are is anti-Semitic, unironically. Give me just a second. Forgot to pull some up. Okay, so here is the response from Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, about why Mahmoud Khalil, what Mahmoud Khalil did to warrant his arrest.
Yeah. In your estimation, what crime did Mahmoud Khalil commit to warrant his arrest, detention, and the potential revocation of his green card?
Let me tell you something. I went face down the angry mob at Columbia at the height of that stuff.
So we're already avoiding the question. Very good.
When the pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas protesters were there. I'm telling you, this is my own observation, not something I read in a newspaper. It was dangerous.
I feel like I don't need to point this out to my audience, but pro-Hamas and pro-Palestine are not one and the same. Thank you for that conflation.
I met with Jewish students before we went to campus who were hauled away off campus because they were instructed by the administration not to come to class, which they paid for.
Appealing to anti-Semitism again. Very good.
For fear of their physical safety. The administrators there refused to take control of that campus. They refused to allow the PD to come, the police department to come in and take control, and it turned into a chaos. The president
they weren't doing anything wrong.
Been removed.
What chaos? What chaos? What specifically? They're asking about specifics, man.
Now they got the same problem again. Columbia and other universities, they have to keep control of campus. The first responsibility of an administration is ensuring the safety of the students who are paying tuition to be there. For crying out loud, this madness has to stop. We have to get control of it. This guy.
If this reporter had, like, by the way, I understand that, like, reporters have very difficult jobs, and this was a very good question from this reporter, but, like, if I were this reporter, I would try to demand, like, something specific, you know? Like, anything specific that this person did. Like, just name it. Name the crime. Speaking.
Apparently was a mastermind of those very things, when the gnashing of teeth and the ripping of clothes and the people screaming at me, wanting to rip me limb from limb because I was there talking about moral clarity and how there's a right.
Did you get hurt? I don't think you got hurt, man. Did the words hurt? Huh? Did the words injure your fragile soy body? Okay? No, I don't think they did. Shut up.
Wrong. They were doing that. They disrupted the campus. They were threatening physical violence to their fellow students.
No, they're not.
If you're
Prove it. That's an actual crime. If you can prove threats of physical violence to other students, that is a crime. Prove that he threatened physical violence to other people. Prove that. Otherwise, that's a lie.
You're on a student visa. I'm going to say this clearly. If you are on a student visa and you're in America and you're an aspiring young terrorist.
Didn't he have a green card? Is he on a student visa? I thought he had a green card, right? Like he's a permanent resident. Yeah, he has a green card. Yeah, that's different. A student visa is a temporary residency, which, by the way, still protects you, okay, in the United States. You still have rights while you're here on a visa. So it's not like it makes it that much different, but the fact that we're conflating those two just means he doesn't know shit about what he's talking about.
Who wants to prey upon your Jewish classmates, you're going home. We're going to arrest your tail, and we're going to send you home where you belong. And this is just getting started. So, look, I appreciate free speech. I used to defend it in courts, but this is far beyond the pale of that. When you are threatening your classmates and spewing anti-Semitism and all this hatred, it's enough.
Show me the be specific. What did he say? Be specific. You have not been specific once. I hate these media-trained ghouls, man. They'll slither their way out of any talking point because, like, that's just what they do. Conservatives just lie. They just lie. They slither their way out of taking accountability for anything that they've done, for answering to anything. Like, it sucks. It just sucks that these people rule us now. It's the worst.
And I think the American people understand that. They're supporting it, and I'm glad we have a president who's strong enough to lay down the law. Thanks a lot.
Sheriff in town.
Yeah, good job, man. The Democrats are let me pull this up too, because I didn't pull this up, but this is important to point out. This is the tweet I was looking for. From the Senate Judiciary Democrats, free Mahmoud Khalil. There's not much, but hey, it's better than what we usually get from them, which is raging Zionism. It's not Zionism, at least. At least we're protecting and defending free speech. That's nice. I mean, it's the bare minimum, but it's better than what they've been doing, which is nothing. So whatever, I'll take it. This is good. I'm glad that the Democrats are pushing back against this. I hope they do it more. The Fox News coverage. I guess they have an entire quote here. I'm not going to read through all of it. Let's take a look at what they have to say about this.
Mahmoud.
And Fox News, famous for, for keeping it fair and balanced and protecting free speech.
Agents arresting protest leader Mahmoud.
These people claim to be against about anti-Semitism, but let Tucker Carlson spread white genocide on national TV for over a decade. That's very true. Thank you very much, Jay, for the $5. Appreciate you. Yeah, they don't give a shit. This is all just bread and circus for
Khalil,
them.
his attorney says the administration is moving to cancel his green card. Maya Solkin is a Columbia graduate. She is a reporter and assistant editor for the Free Press, and so good to see you in person. His attorney says ISIS arrest and detention of Mahmoud follows the U.S. government's open repression of student activism and political speech, specifically targeting students at Columbia for criticism of Israel's assault on Gaza. Now, that's his attorney. How do you see it?
Thank you so much for having me. Listen, this is someone who has been the engine behind so much of the violence that we have seen.
Like what? Like what?
On campus since October 7th. And so no one is telling Khalil and students like him that they cannot peacefully protest or even say things that we disagree with. But what is happening is violence. It is harassment. It is trespassing. It is causing thousands of dollars in property damage and sending public safety officers to the hospital. So we are not talking.
Sending public, dude, they send their themselves to the hospitals. They're way more likely to hurt themselves than they are to hurt other people. What?
Talking about free speech anymore. We are talking about crimes.
You graduated from Columbia, so you're very familiar with
no specific crimes.
There is
no examples.
The Columbia Jewish Alumni Association said every American citizen should be concerned when students are encouraging terrorist activities on U.S. soil.
They're not they're protests.
Was he encouraging terrorist activity? Was he just protesting Israel?
I mean, listen.
Free speech is terrorism now. Don't do free speech. If you speak out against Israel, I guess you're a terrorist now.
In Millbank Hall just a few days ago, and in Milstein Library, 3 days ago, he was handing out flyers from the Hamas media outlet, which is not an exaggeration, literally the Hamas.
Okay, let's take a look. Let's fact check this. Mahmoud Khalil flyers. Let's take a look and see if we can find pro-Hamas propaganda flyers. Is this it? 1 of 10, 2 of 10. Here, I think we found the flyers in question. Our narrative, Operation Al-Aqsa Flood. Hamas Media Office. Was he actually handing this out? Even if he was, by the way, it's still free speech. Allegedly distributed. Okay, so this is not confirmed that he distributed this one. This is just alleged. A flyer threatening to crush Zionism. Also free speech, also based. One of the posters featuring an image of Yahya Sinwar. Sometimes history needs a push. Flood. Did he hand this out? One of the posters. Who's Yahya Sinwar? A Palestinian militant and politician who served as chairman of the Hamas Political Bureau from August 2024. Was he handing out Hamas flyers? Again, even if he was, that still is free speech. He shouldn't be deported for it. If anybody in the comments can correct me on these flyers, I'd really appreciate it. I need some fact checking on this. Let me see something. I don't know if I trust the New York Post with this. Leave It said flyers with Hamas's logo were distributed at group protests. She said Khalil had organized but did not accuse him of distributing the flyers himself. Leave It did not present evidence of Khalil's involvement. So we don't even know if he handed out the flyers or was involved at all. That's great, man. We're just running with that narrative, though.
Logo on these flyers. Wow. These are people that call October 7th a glorious day. They are carrying Hamas flags. If that is not espousing terrorist activity, I really do not know.
It's Palestinian flags. They're not carrying Hamas flags. They're carrying Palestinian flags. And even if they were carrying Hamas flags, once again, that's their freedom of speech. We let people fly Nazi flags on the streets, okay? Which I don't necessarily agree with, by the way. I think that should be illegal, just so you know, okay? But if we allow that, then I think that I think that it should be legal to fly a Hamas flag. If you're going to allow the swastika, you can allow the Hamas flag. You have to be consistent. But the overwhelming majority of the time, it's Palestinian flags. Obviously, you're going to get some people who actually support Hamas, whatever. But again, it's protest, it's freedom of speech. And ultimately, if they didn't want Hamas to be a problem, maybe Israel shouldn't have invaded Palestine in the first place. They're the ones who created Hamas and funded them, mind you, okay? So you want to talk shit about Hamas? Why don't you let's do it right now. Why don't we take a look at Israel funding Hamas? Let's see what happens. Israel's support for Hamas. The Israel support for Hamas refers to the direct involvement by Israeli authorities from different periods in the rise and empowerment of Palestinian militant group Hamas. Since Israel's victory in the Six-Day War in 1967, Israel has occupied the Palestinian territories, including the West Bank. The occupation has been controversial, with Israel accused of violating international law, as well as committing human rights abuses and apartheid against Palestinians. The Israeli government has also actively promoted the creation and growth of Israeli settlements in Palestine. The Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, an umbrella group representing several of the most prominent Palestinian nationalist movements in the second half of the 20th century, has also been accused of a number of human rights violations and of waging a terrorist campaign against Israelis. Formed in the early 1960s, it became the dominant Palestinian movement throughout the second half of the 20th century. Hamas is a newer Palestinian nationalist movement formed as an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood in the late 1980s and is politically oriented towards conservative Islamism. Also accused of human rights violation and terrorism. Okay, so where does it say about their funding? Here we go. Former Israeli officials have openly acknowledged Israel's role in providing funding and assistance to Yassin's network as a means of undermining the secular left-wing Palestinian factions that made up the PLO. There you go. So if you hate Hamas so much, you should also hate Israel, because they're the ones who funded their asses and made them so goddamn proliferant, as opposed to the other leftist groups, okay, who were actual activist groups and trying to just provide a better life for their people, okay? There you go. Israel created Hamas. So I'm sorry, I don't have any, it sucks that Hamas is killing people. That's wrong and bad and whatever, but I just don't have that much sympathy for the Fox News heads who say that Hamas is this giant problem because they're supporting Israel, the people who funded them and made them. How stupid can you be, man? Yeah, Hamas is a problem. Guess who made them? Anyway, I think this has gone long enough. I'm not a super expert on the subject, but free my mans. Mahmoud Khalil did nothing wrong that I can see. He was practicing his free speech, And this will come back and bite all of us in the ass if we don't do something about it right now.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more, hit the notification bell to be notified when I upload. If you enjoy my content, you enjoy what I do, I really appreciate any financial help that I can get. Go to youtube.com/AlecGunterTTV/join. You got some awesome benefits, such as seeing early videos, awesome emotes that you can use in the comments of YouTube videos, and a sweet badge next to your name. So if that sounds interesting to you, I'd really appreciate if you join. It is cheaper than the cost of a blowjob from your mom. So with all that being said, thank you again for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.